Hey, what's up you guys? This is DJ Paul, and today what I'm gonna be doing is giving you guys a review of the BassBoss VS21s. They're sitting here in my living room now. They've been sitting here in my living room for a while. Finally got to take them out for a couple gigs, and actually I wasn't able to use them for a while after I got them. I had one event booked, and now I feel like I've gotten to use them enough. I know enough about them, how they respond, to be able to give a review and tell you guys how it is, because I haven't been able to see any reviews of these online. So let's talk about the VS21. I'll give a little bit overview about it, then I'll talk about why I bought them and how I think they perform. So the VS21, it's a 21-inch subwoofer from BassBoss. Its dimensions are, it's 24 inches by 3 inches, or sorry, 36 inches by 36 inches, so 2 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. That's the same dimensions as the popular Sherwin Vega folded horns. I think I'm pronouncing that right, which I've actually used those quite a bit in clubs and bars that I've DJ'd. So I'm familiar with how those sound. This sounds completely different, What this is, it's a hybrid design. So you can see the port down here. It's a ported sub with a short horn, with the idea being it's ported and tuned to a very low frequency, so you get the excellent low frequency extension, but you also get this sort of punch, this transient impact that's delivered by the short horn in here. Not really sure how the design works. Looking at the sub, it weighs about 180 pounds, I would say. So actually heavy, but not too heavy. Let's look here at the back. Looking here on the back panel, we have power con in and out, as well as an on-off switch. And then we have our input and output XLR. We got this cardioid switch, so you can do it normal or cardioid. I'm not sure what this middle position is. It might just be regular polarity as well. You have your gain knob, and then you have your EXO, which is your crossover, which actually goes from 80 Hertz to 100 Hertz. Now, I have this crossed over at 80. One thing that's important to realize, and I didn't realize this, and I should have read the manual, RTFM, this output is just straight whatever this signal is. So I actually made a mistake and thought that this would cross over this at 80 Hertz. It doesn't do that. It just runs it in full range. So keep that in mind. And that's nice, because if you want to chain multiple subs, you can do that without having to worry about, oh, it's already crossing it over. You also have a signal light, which will turn green, and a red light, which will turn on, I think, when the speaker is limiting or just kind of in protect mode. So that'll turn red as well. You get 3 pull cups, which are not the M20 thread. They're these holes. And I would have actually preferred the M20 thread. There's one here on each side, and here, and then the one on top. I would have preferred the M20, but I think David Lee, who's the designer of these speakers, he said that he used the pole cup because the M20 thread was snapping off. So what you can do is you can get the ring lock poles for these from K&M. And that's actually what I did, except I got the short ones because I've been using these. These are my Fulcrum FA22 AC tops, but I have other tops I sometimes would use with these as well. These are the only ones I've used with it. So let me talk a little bit about why I bought these subs. So if you guys know, well, actually, most of the subs that I use on a normal basis, are bass reflex subs. So some of the subs I have here in my bedroom, this is an SRX 828 SP, dual 18-inch bass reflex sub, SRX 818 SP, single 18-inch bass reflex subwoofer. These are 4 of the VRX 918 SPs, also bass reflex. So I'm very familiar with the sound of bass reflex subwoofers. One of the clubs that I DJ at regularly has a whole stack of folded horns, so horn-loaded subs, as well as some bandpass subs. And to me, the sound was very different. And what I was looking for was, I wonder if I can get that sort of tight sound out of a subwoofer that, would be able to fit, in a van or something like that. The other thing that I will say is I was looking for is something that had a lot of low frequency extension. So I do play a lot of hip hop and Latin music and EDM. In particular, with some hip hop tracks, I find that there are notes that a lot of times you'll have like an 808 sub bass, which is a sine wave. And in a lot of tracks, a lot of subs will drop off and the notes will just disappear. Now, with those JBL subs, the SRX 800 stuff gets a little bit deeper than the VRX 900 stuff. Although for a lot of applications, I actually prefer the VRX stuff because it sounds a little punchier and tighter to me. So what I was hoping was to find a sub that would not roll off as much. The VS21 has a -3 dB point at 25 Hertz. And if you look at the frequency response, it's pretty much flat down to 27 Hertz, and then it starts rolling off. And because that part is basically bass reflex, you get this 24 decibel per octave roll off that you'd expect from any bass reflex cabinet. It just so happens that I think this box is physically larger, so it's tuned to a deeper frequency. And I think that's why it's able to get that low frequency extension. So I was interested in all these things, and there were a couple subs that I was considering that could fit the bill on this. The VS21 was on the top of my list, but some of the other ones I was considering were actually the BassBoss ZV28, although I don't think I could actually fit that in my vehicle. But another sub I was looking at is the, I think it's the RK Sound. Oh man, I'm gonna need to find the thing. And one of the things I liked about that was it actually matched these fulcrum tops. I was looking at that. I could have ordered 2 of them and they would have shipped from the UK on a pallet. On paper, it's a great sub. But once again, I think that would have just been a bass reflex sub that's lower. Now, one of the problems or one of the complaints I sometimes have with bass reflex subs, and this gets a little technical, is I find that because of the ports, when you design speakers, right, you're gonna design them with ports. This port causes phase distortion, which means that in the time domain, you're basically doing convolution and smearing out your transient response. So if you've ever heard bass that's like late, it feels delayed, and it's not a physical delay, it just doesn't feel as punchy or tight. It's deep, but it's not punchy or tight. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And what I was hoping to do by buying the VS21s was find a sub that wouldn't roll off, was the first thing, got loud, and 3, was also punchy and maintain that punchiness, because the SRX 818s that I have, while they get deeper, I think the VRXs are a little bit punchier and they sound a little bit tighter. So I was really trying to get, as Hannah Montana would say, the best of both worlds. Now, the BassBoss people were kind enough to arrange a demo for me at a store here in Houston. I was actually willing to drive to Austin to go to a demo. Then they were in Los Angeles. Well, I have family in Los Angeles that I was visiting anyway, so I was gonna go by their showroom, but they ended up hooking me up with a demo of these VS21s that they shipped to a store in Houston. And I came to the store with a set of test tracks that I call sub killers. And I'll basically put a link to this playlist here in the description. Now, what is on this playlist are hip hop tracks that my other subs cannot generally do. They mess up my other subs. And these often have notes in the mid to high 20s in terms of frequency. I don't need a sub that goes down to 20 Hertz. There's not a lot of stuff I'm playing. But I do want most of the songs that I play on a regular basis, like Rack City or something, to not be rolling off. I don't want that bass disappearing. So when I had the demo and I heard the BassBoss sub, it actually, there wasn't a single test track that I threw at it that it could not do well. Now, I wasn't initially just all of a sudden blown away by sound quality. And I don't think that's something you should expect. It's not saying you shouldn't expect this out of the sub, but these are subs. They're not like, you're not gonna get this like these minute details in everything because you're playing these low frequencies. But to me, it sounded very balanced, and I would say very, like it was effortlessly reproducing these lower frequencies. It just sounded like it wasn't really straining at all. Whereas I demoed it next to an SRX 828 SP, and the SRX, I mean, it's a great sub for the money. I mean, I own them. I love them. I love the 828s. For the money, I think there's nothing that even comes close to it. but it felt like it was straining to reproduce the same frequencies as the BassBoss sub. In fact, there was a guy in the store who was like walking by, and he listened to me like A-Bing these subs and testing them and blowing the whole store out, and he immediately asked for pricing on the BassBoss. And I think he was in a band or something. And to me, that was like, he gave it a thumbs up and immediately asked like the store guy for pricing. And I'm like, man, if this guy can hear the difference between these two, I don't have an excuse. And honestly, part of me did not want these subs to outperform the 828s, because I have the 828s and they're nice, and I didn't want to be spending money and on these subs. And obviously they sounded good enough and to make me pull the trigger on a pair of them. And I may be getting 2 more in the future. So let's move on to my actual review of these subs, because I've given the groundwork. I'm given why I bought them. Do these subs meet my expectations for what I was looking for? The answer to this is absolutely. The thing that really impressed me about these subs is just how loud they can actually get. I mean, it is absolutely amazing how loud these subs can get. On paper, this sub is spec'd to reach 132 dB Spl continuous, which calculates out to about a peak of 139. I think that has to do with like a crest factor of 3 dB and maybe with pink noise or some test. So on paper, the SRX 828 SP gets louder because it peaks at 141. But I think the SRX has its peak around maybe 60 Hertz or higher in the passband, whereas the peak to the VS21 is much lower. And I think it's just deeper in a lot of areas as the SRX. So a couple of the events that I use these for, besides just here in my apartment where I really cannot turn it up that loud at all. A few of the events that I've used it for, one was a Latin America party, a Latin party with a lot of Latin music. There were quite a few people, but it wasn't really in a space where I could push it. I knew I wasn't pushing it. One of the other parties I got to use these for was a college party. We had over 1,100 people show up to this party. It was in this large space. I'll send a picture. And these subs exceeded my expectations for this space. In fact, at this venue, I used this system, one on top of the other, one fulcrum on top of the sub. I was concerned about the sound. In the past, what we've used for that event was 4 SRX 728Ss. So these are the passive double 18s from JBL. And these were powered by iTechs. So we are not underpowering these at all. I think we powered them with 1200s. So 4 double 18s. And for tops, we used 2 to 3 VRX 932 LAPs per side. We generally flew them on trussing and covered the space. For this setup here, the tops were the limiting factor. I was not expecting that at all. I've never had that be a problem. These fulcrum tops, it's 2 12s with a single high frequency driver. Now, looking back in retrospect, I should not have been surprised because these tops do not produce 132 dB Spl continuous. They can probably produce 128 dB Spl continuous, and they sound absolutely phenomenal doing that. Whereas the subs are at 132. So these subs will outrun these tops. These subs will outrun pretty much any tops that you have, because remember, that's a 132 dB Spl continuous number. So you compare this to something like the SRX 812Ps or 815Ps, and these subs are going to run away from it 1 to 1, maybe even 2 to 1. I would not be surprised. These tops were going into limit. They actually went into thermal protect during the night. I was driving them hard. I knew I was going to be pushing them hard because we didn't have the budget to be bringing all this other gear. I never saw the subs go into limit. Remember, this is like 1,100 people in an indoor space. That is ridiculous. And it sounded phenomenal in there. I mean, it sounded amazing. So that should be a testament. Now, in an ideal world, would I have brought 2 more of these? Yes. Did I need 2 more? No, I really didn't. I think if I was to do that party again, what I would do is take my short K&M pulls and put the VRX 932s 2 of them per side on a pole. In fact, that's what I'm gonna be doing this weekend for an event. So that's what I was planning on doing. Now, one mistake I made is I ran these tops in full range and I should have high passed them. So that would have meant that I could have driven these tops even louder. They were probably running at 124 dB SPL. Could have ran them probably around 128. But once again, the subs are still gonna run away from them, even crossed over. So that's pretty incredible. Even BassBoss's own tops, like the DV12s, they run at, I think, 120 dB SPL, and crossed over, they run at 126 dB SPL. So once again, if you use a single DV12 per side, and you use the VS21s, the VS21s are gonna run away from the DV12s. If you're like having it balanced. Now, if you want like a disproportionate amount of bass, that's fine. I love bass, but holy crap, these are fantastic. Yeah, I really don't have anything I wish was different about them. Do I wish they were, the size of a matchbox and still produce the same sound? Absolutely. I can fit both of these in my van, and I don't have a lot of room for other things. I can fit a few other things, but I don't think I can fit the speakers in as well. So I had to take 2 trips. That's one thing that is a little bit tricky for me, but obviously the size of this compared to the double 18, cubic volume wise, it's slightly larger than an SRX 828 SP, which I will say the SRX 828 SP from JBL is a very light sub. It only weighs about 145 pounds and it's small. It's about 28,000 cubic inches. Whereas I think each of these are about 31,000 cubic inches. So they're slightly bigger. The other thing I will mention, I got covers for these. You obviously want to get covers, and I got them with the zipper pockets. The zipper pockets aren't all that big. I do wish the zipper pockets were a little bit larger. And I also wish the covers had a front part. But these covers I think are made from a separate company called Undercover. The other thing I want to mention is you can notice these subs are on a caster board that I bought from BassBoss. And the caster board, it doesn't come with it. You have to buy it. It's costs, I don't know, around 200, 240 bucks, I'd say. And it has, I think these are 4-inch casters with wheel locks. Holy crap, these casters and the caster board are really, really nice. Compared to the 3-inch casters on something like, this is the SRX 818 SP. It is way easier to move these with their casters than even the single SRX 818 or the VRX 918 SP, which are about 80, 90 pounds. And these are like double the weight, but they're way easier to move. Like I can move it with one hand. I mean, it's incredible. These caster boards, like definitely buy the caster board. I mean, there are these locking feet underneath, and the feet just go right into the caster board, and it fits and it locks and it's not gonna come out. And like I said, I don't have enough good things to say about these casters. They're phenomenal, and it's not that expensive. Like when I bought these, the guy was like, well, man, I'm sorry, like, probably more than you were expecting to spend. And I'm like, well, the RCF caster board's like $500. It's $500 for the RCF caster board. I mean, that's ridiculous. They really hose you on that. Whereas these, it's actually not that much. I mean, I would have paid $500 for these boards, to be totally honest. They're that good. I mean, they're really that good. I like that there's a brake on each wheel. I didn't need a brake on each wheel, or I didn't know I needed that, but that's really convenient. I tend to lock only two of the wheels because, once it's in place with 2 wheels, it's generally not going anywhere. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the VS21s. Once again, I'll just reiterate, these things, I'm not being paid by BassBoss or anything. They're not telling me to make this video. I'm not sponsored by them. Gee, I'd love to be sponsored by them. Once again, I am impressed. I'm very impressed. These subs are going to be going with me on a lot of events. They're pretty much bulletproof. Like I said, I never saw them go into limit. I never heard them go into limit. And I was checking the lights because at the last couple events that I've been doing, where I got to really push them to what I would consider to be their limit. So yeah, I'll probably either be buying 2 more of these or maybe a ZV28 in the future for like really big events. But honestly, for most of the college parties I do, 500, 700, up to 1,000 people, a pair of these are fine. Whereas, would a pair of the SRX 828 SPs be fine? I don't know. I generally brought the SRX 828 SPs and brought my single 818 SPs and stuck them on top because the 828 SPs don't have pull cups. And I would say you get way more deep bass out of these. Now, for most songs, these sound better. It's better defined, it's tighter, whereas it still gets deep. For some songs, I actually think the SRX 800 stuff does sound better. And I think it's actually because it's so aggressive, because there's some like distortion and some harmonics that are added, that for some songs that sounds good. But for me, I would rather be able to add that distortion in afterwards than have to deal with it. Because to me, these subs sound way clearer. And this system with the fulcrum tops, which these sound very similar to the BassBoss DV12s. This is just a dual 12-inch with the coaxial. This is a coaxial design with two 12s. The DV12 is just a single 12. I think the driver is similar. When I listened to these fulcrums next to the DV12s, they sounded very, very similar to me. I personally thought the fulcrum sounded maybe slightly better, but that's also buyer's remorse because these cost more than double the DV12s. So maybe I was just hearing what my wallet wanted me to hear. But they were very, very close. And the other people that I was demoing them with also thought so as well. I didn't buy the DV12s. Maybe I will. I don't know. Haven't decided. But that's kind of later down the line. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about the VS21s, please let me know. But yeah, like I said, my conclusion is I am very impressed, very happy with this purchase. Would totally recommend it. It has met and exceeded my expectations. Like I said, all I was expecting, all I was wanting was these to just sound similar to the 828 SPs, maybe not be quieter, and get deeper. And I would say not only do these get way deeper, but from my just sort of, I guess, qualitative experience, that's the word I'm looking for, these for sure can beat the 828 1-to-1. Maybe upper in the frequency range, you can see these roll off. The 828 has a slight advantage at like 70, 80 Hertz or at a certain point. But I mean, I can use two of these in spaces where I probably would have used 3, maybe even 4 of the 828 SPs. So for that, I am very happy. Saves me time. It saves me, well, I don't know if it saves me, I guess it saves me money. But it definitely saves my back, and it saves space, and it saves a lot of power, because you can actually run 2 of these on a single 20 amp circuit. Now, I'm not going to do that. The reason I like to split these up is because these tops can pull about 5.5 amps max when they're at their limit, and these probably pull a little less than 5. So I'm like, if I run a system with these, probably would run on a 20 amp circuit fine, because there's no way these are drawing 20 amps all the time. But if I have DJ gear as well, and maybe a few lights or something, you plug anything else in there, boom, it's gonna pop. So if I have access to 2 circuits, I would prefer to run 2. But apparently you can run these 2 on their own circuit with 2 top boxes as well, which is insane. I was not expecting that, because when I run the 828s, I typically run 2, maybe I could get away with 3 828 SPs on a single 20 amp line. I tend to do 2 because that's how we used to run the 728Ss. It'd be 2 728Ss on an iTech, and that's 1 circuit, and there's nothing else that can go on it. Whereas with the 828s, you can probably run 2 of the 828s and then 2 of the top boxes on a single 20 amp and be totally fine. In fact, I wouldn't be stressed about doing that. And in some situations, I've run the 818 SPs and 4 of the VRX 932 LAPs on the same circuit with some DJ gear. I don't like having to do that, but I've had to do that before, and it's fine. It really is fine. At certain notes, the power may cut, but it doesn't flip the breaker. And that would be my guess, maybe what would happen with these 2, is that maybe the power draw would just cause it to cut out for a second. I don't think you'd actually trip your breaker. But yeah, for the power draw, I honestly, like, the laws of physics still apply, but these things get very close to beating what in my experience, I would expect a 2400 watt amp, what you could run 2 of on a 20 amp line, to be able to put out. Like that's ridiculous. Like that you can run 2 of these and 2 top boxes all on the same 20 amp line. Like to me, there's like something like strange going on, that you can run all that and get the amount of sound and the quality of the sound at that low of power draw. It's pretty impressive. But anyway, yeah, like I said, please let me know if you guys have any questions. I know this is a long review. I did want to get pretty technical since I don't see any other reviews of these. I'll try to post some stuff about the events that I've used these for, and you can get some information. But yeah, definitely check it out. If you're interested on pricing on these, let me know. I have a rep that was able to get me this pair for less than I was, like slightly less than I was hoping to pay for them, which was amazing. So yeah, definitely check it out. This is the VS21s. Like I said, they exceeded my expectations. They're fantastic subs. It's amazing. They exceed my expectations. That makes me want to buy more of them. They're louder than I expected, and I want to buy more. But yeah, it's great. All right. Thank you guys. See you guys in the next video.